Small groups of neighborhood volunteers are working to thwart home ownership in certain neighborhoods, reworking home ownership rulebooks to thwart investors from purchasing in these neighborhoods. These groups, if you haven't guessed it, are called HOAs or homeowners associations. Now, most of the time, HOAs spend their time enforcing rules about parking, lawn care, landscape, things like even basketball hoops and swings and trees, to name a few. But they often have broad powers to regulate how homes are used. Hi, this is Kiwi the Coast, your luxury real estate specialist, helping you maximize and sell the value of your coastal home. So let's dive into the subject. So homeowners associations, so what are these rascals up to? Now, some of these associations happen to believe that the rise of purchases by investors in these communities of homes has led to a reduction in the amount of maintenance the homes get and also a drop in the desirability of these particular neighborhoods. And of course, investors, because of the all-cash nature of many of them, have made it very difficult for families to move into some of these neighborhoods because they're getting outbid, aren't they? So what has the Homeowners Association response been? Well, one of the tactics has been to put a cap on the number of homes that investors can purchase and rent out in a particular neighborhood, or requiring that rental tenants be approved by the association before they are granted a lease and can move in. And of course, in most cases, the associations need at least a 2/3 majority to pass any action. Now, in Walkertown, North Carolina, for example, members of the Whitehall Master Village Association are trying to amend their CC&Rs, which stands for Covenants, Conditions and Restrictions, to provide for any new purchases by investors requiring that they live in the home for at least 6 months, or they leave the home vacant for 6 months before renting it out. And of course, this move, they believe, would prevent investors from buying more than one home in a particular neighborhood. Of course, some of the homes in subdivisions that are owned by investors and rented out do look shabbier than others because in many cases those homeowners live out of town, don't live in the neighborhood or close by, and of course, it's harder for them to deal with property problems and respond. Now, investor purchases, if you haven't noticed, have been rising in recent years, even with the pandemic, and they account for nearly 1 in 5 homes purchased for the month of December. And their effect on the housing market, and in particular local housing neighborhoods, has been a hot button issue across the country. Now, home prices, as you know, have increased at historically high rates during the pandemic, and would-be buyers are saying that they've had a hard time competing with companies that are stepping up and paying all cash. Now, some housing experts say that blocking investors from neighborhoods could hurt renters, who are often less wealthy than their home-owning counterparts or who struggle to find affordable housing. Now, these new rules that are being adopted by Single-Family Homeowners Association are already quite prevalent in neighborhoods like Manhattan in New York, for example, and quite common in condominium and cooperative housing. And this is where many co-ops or homeowners associations limit the number of investors that are purchasing units and therefore the number of rental properties in a particular building. The new rules that are adopted by homeowners associations are actually quite common with co-ops and condominiums in such communities as Manhattan and New York, for example. And this is where many co-ops or boards limit the number of investors purchasing units and therefore the number of units that are rented. Now, it's hard to know at this stage how many associations are moving to block investors from their communities, but it's likely that the number is at least in the thousands. Now, since the beginning of 2019, some 30% of the amendments that have been enacted by HOAs in 21 counties, including Florida, Arizona, North Carolina, and Texas, were leasing and users restrictions. including restrictions on short-term and long-term rentals as well. And that's up from 21% of the amendments that were filed by those same counties between 2016 and 2018. Now, what are state lawmakers doing about this? Well, state lawmakers who are concerned obviously with affordable housing and so on, state lawmakers who obviously are concerned about affordable housing and many other housing matters have been debating how much power HOAs or homeowners associations should have over rentals. Now, as part of an effort to encourage homeowners to build small units on their land, California now prohibits associations from imposing some limitations on long-term leases. Now, during the past few years, the real estate industry in states like Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida have passed legislation that effectively prevents associations from banning investor purchases retroactively, and for of course those folks renting out their homes. Although associations can still block future investor purchases with amendments in those same 3 states. Of course, in other places, associations with a majority of home ownership, in other words, not many investors owning properties, are enacting laws to preempt corporate buyers. Hey, I hope you found all that information valuable. It's kind of a lot to take in, but don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can stay up to date on all the changes affecting you and the real estate market. See you on the next video. Boom.